So, 30 amp, 45 foot cord needs to be buried at least a couple inches below the mowing deck level. I thought I was being sneaky. I had a loop of coil of extra cable off to the side, and I got into it with a lawnmower. So this is going to be a splicing video, and I'll go through some of the odds and ends on it, but this is the damage that came from the lawnmower taking a bite out of this 30 amp RV cord. For reference, the lawnmower cut happened to be about 2/3 of the way down this 30 amp cord. So just chopping off an end and putting new end on either end is not the best solution here. We really need to do just a simple splice in the middle. So first step, we're going to clean up the ends, then we're going to splice, then we're going to wrap with rubber mastic tape, at least 2 wraps going half over each time. Then we'll finish with just typical electrical tape or vinyl tape, 2 more layers, and then pulling the white filter back a bit. This 30 amp cable has just simply got a black and white, which is crimp, and I'm going to make the crimp so one staggers to the next, staggers to the next, so the cable diameter doesn't get really fat with all of them in the same spot. So I'll demonstrate what that looks like as I'm going, but regardless, we need to trim the filter back, the cables back to where there's no damage, the conductors I should say, till there's no damage, and then all 3 are staggered at some level that makes sense. I hadn't mentioned tools, but for this job we're going to use a pair of dikes. Kitty cat's going to go by to help us out with the production here. Stripping tool, which just makes life easier, and some kind of utility knife so we can trim back the filter and the jacket to some kind of common level. So we're going to trim with the dikes, we're going to strip back the correct distance and gauge number based on conductor size, and then we're going to do some trimming on the jacket and the filter with the utility knife. There will be, after this point, a warning. I'm going to try to remember to put that in so I don't get my timing out of sync. But this is electrical work. As always, it shouldn't be performed by amateurs. This is educational. Here, I'm going to start by just randomly choosing the ground as my first cut on the left hand piece of cord. So I cut back some of the jacket. I pulled the ground cable out till I could see where I didn't have any other damage, and from here I'm going to trim off that few inch section just to get a nice clean piece of cable. For reference, this 30 amp RV cable is 3 conductor 10 American wire gauge conductors. So I'm going to have splices for 10 AWG wire. I just wanted to bring that up for reference. So it'll become clearer as I get one side done, but I'm going to try to slice cut each conductor to be about a half. So as I mentioned before, I stripped the ground wire. I put one of the crimps on it loosely. I'm going to grab the next crimp. I want it to be so it just reaches the end of the first. That'll kind of give me an idea where I need to cut the next conductor, which in this case is the white conductor. So I'm going to cut that off about the edge of my thumbnail there, so it'll end up staggering so it doesn't, one crimp insulated area doesn't touch the next crimped insulated. And here you can see the general idea. The green, the white, and the black now have been cut off, and the crimp is slid over the top of them after they've been stripped back about 3/8 of an inch, in this case with 10 AWG. So the 3 splices will be one, then the next, then the next. And the reason I say that is that'll make the overall splice that much more narrow. It won't be so bulky. It'll be a little bit easier to move around and not such a big lump in the middle. Also, there's a good thing about it is each one is separate from the other one as far as the existing wire. Each conductor's insulator will be separate from the next one, which will be separate from the next one. So there is probably a million videos on crimping connectors, but I like to look down inside, find the seam, which is on the bottom of this picture. And an easy way to find the seam is to find that little indent that stops the conductor from going too deep. And what I want to do is have my crimper jaws, which are there, not very clear. I should probably squeeze that a little bit better. I'll squeeze right now. You can see how that squishes. Squishes. I'll use squishes. The bottom is a rounder surface, and the top is pinched down on top. The bottom is where the seam goes, and the top is where that little indent down goes. That way the seam doesn't split out, it pushes it together, and then the whole conductor and the crimp all squish together as one. So I don't know if I'm going to try to catch that, but I think you guys follow my logic. The little top indent, that little V shape on the top, that goes towards where the top points down in the middle, and then you really can't see it very well, but I'll try to catch it. The bottom there is the seam for the metal part that crimps against it. That'll open up. What you want to do is have that compressed down, and to compress it down you use the bottom part of the jaw down. So I crimp, I don't have very good light there, just in that form right there. So that's what you're looking for. I'll crimp one of them. If I can get a good video, I will. I'm kind of perplexed. So I'll try to capture this on this first one. I'm going to take a splice. I'll put it over the top of the conductor. Try not to push any of the conductor strands back. I'm going to twist it nice and easy on top of it till it hits the bottom. And what you're hoping for is the bottom is the little over cover part, goes over the insulator, and then the existing exposed conductor slides over and hits that stop in the middle. That should be a win. And then we're going to look at the end, like I had mentioned earlier. We're going to try to get this thing, so in my case, that little V's up. I apologize. I'm working off very limited light here, but you can see what I'm doing. Move that V part up. Boom. And in the perfect world, I have a camera holder, but I don't have a camera holder. So I'm going to grab my crimping tool. Okay. So studio at my house is very lacking. I've got a light on my knee. I've got my phone in my hand, and I got my left hand holding it all together. But regardless, as you can see, the little V shape is vertical. The crimp in part on the splice is above to crimp down. And then as you're looking at the side of this, you'll see over here, there you go, a little bit. You're just crimping 1/2 of the cable in. So we're getting this first crimp locked in, and as you get all that perfect, which I just started crimping there, good depth, conductors pushed all the way in, started compressing the crimpers on the crimp. We're just going to keep on squeezing that until pretty much as hard as I can get with my hand. What that's going to do is make a nice indent into the conductor. And then that wider section is going to take the split and kind of push it together. And then the thing you always want to do is just take it and pull it apart as hard as you can. If you can't pull that apart, that's about as good as you're going to crimp it. I'm going to take another grab at that and give it another squeeze. But that one's going to be done. And I'll continue on to the white one. I'll continue on the green one. I'll take a picture of that one. Okay, steak break time. I know we got a little bit of shadow going on there. I have to work on that. So, like in the pit boss public. Okay, first end is all spliced and ready for action. And then I will take a picture here soon, or video here soon, of the next end to match the. Okay, the left hand end is prepped and ready to go. Now we're going to start working on the right hand end. Doesn't matter left, right, but you get the idea. The side on the right, I just kind of pulled the 3 conductors out and the filter, and then you can see the sheathing. We'll be cutting all that back as we go, but what we want to do right off the bat is to think about the idea of the green, the black, and the white lengths are going to match the green and the black and the white length as we're done. And then I'm not going to worry about the filter or the sheathing. We're going to cut that back to suit as best we can. But the first thing, as I mentioned before, green is going to be the most we had to cut back. So now we're going to cut back the white to about there. We're going to cut back the black to about there. We use the end of the splice crimps to determine the length of our conductors. And then when we strip them back, they'll slide in. Okay, I don't have good light here, so I apologize, but you see the black, I cut and trimmed it back. Green, same story, and white, if you can see, it's the same story. So all 3 should be, when I slide them into the crimps and crimp them, about the same length. So that's what we want right now, which is just splicing the 3 conductors together at as close to the equal length as we can. So now you can see the sheathing and the filter is kind of a strandy mess. Now we're going to do a little trim up on that. So step 1, get one end of the conductors ready and crimped. Step 2, get the second end, right hand side in this case, the conductors ready and prepped and crimped. Now we're getting ready to resheathe this and wrap it up, call it a done. Okay, as you can see, I cut the sheathing, kind of saved the best of the best on both sides. You can see where the motor sliced out this side and cut down to this side. I just kind of cut down the middle there. I cut back the sheathing to that spot. Then the filler of this white cloth, I just cut it back a little bit past any one of the crimps. There's one ending there, another one ends there, another one is there, so there's really no need for filler. As you can see, it's pretty well clean for diameter. Okay, so I just jury-rigged a cam setup and a light setup. So if you hear me cussing in the background, that means something went kaput. I've got a cat in the background giving me grief, but what we're going to start with is this elastomeric rubber. Probably going to start an inch back, like I had mentioned, from the very cut on the sheathing that's the existing conductor. We're going to go over the top of our cut spot where we mated the sheathing. We're going to continue out to about there, and we're going to pull it around once, and we're going to work it back to this way. So we'll just see how this goes. So this stuff is kind of fun. It's just pretty much rubber. It doesn't have really a sticky side. I hate to say it that way. It just sticks to itself, but you can see the thickness of it probably. It's a good seal. So like I said, we're going to start here. We're going to pull it tight, give it some tight on itself. And that is really how you start. So I'm going to pull it tight, hook it onto itself. That's about a half over. And then we're just going to... So this is, after that pause, a little bit of lighting, clamp, camera, fiasco, fell apart. So learn as you go. A little fat in the middle there, but started from the right, half over itself, a little thicker where that main splice over the sheathing was to give it some extra strength. Take it to the left, get to an inch past where the sheathing was cut, start backtracking, and then it's easier to do that backtrack because you don't have the split anymore. You can make a little bit better pass over. So this is the rubber elastomeric coat. Then we're going to go back over this one more time with good old-fashioned electric tape, and that's just going to give us one more layer. Okay, as promised, we're going over the rubber elastomeric with the vinyl typical electrical tape, and I got it started because that was kind of a fun start. And we're just going to do this again, about a half overlap. And this stuff is just a little bit different composition, different strengths and weaknesses, but regardless, it and the rubber elastomeric have a lot of insulating and sealing. Okay, here is the final project. I waited till the next day to take a good picture of it, so went into the cable, chopped out here in the middle, then into the cable, and kind of a zoom up with that splice in case somebody wants to do a quick look. That's it, project done. So, Greater Spokane signing off. Everybody have a wonderful day.